Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Ken Dolan-Del Vecchio. I'm here with my friend and co-author Nancy Saxton-Lopez, and this is a program that we do live on Facebook and YouTube every Thursday from 6 p.m. Eastern Time to about 6:30, and it is a way to expand the reach of the book that we wrote called The Pet Loss Companion: Healing Advice from Family Therapists Who Lead Pet Loss Groups. And a lot of what we do on this program is we read letters from audience members who share the story of their animal's life and passing and how they're doing in their grief process. And so if you'd like to share your story, have us share your story, please send us your account, and you can send it to kenddv@gmail.com and or nancysaxtonlopez@gmail.com. And this information appears in the description to the program, whether you're with us live, and thank you for joining us if you are, or whether you are
Want to listen?
listening to one of the replays. And again, thank you if you are joining us in that way. And you can tell us if you send your story whether it's okay to share. We will write back to you. One or both of us will write back to you in any case. But if it's okay to share, we just need for you to tell us that. And you can also tell us that it's okay to share certain things, but not other parts of your story. Because sometimes people send things, include things that are more personal that they'd rather not have shared with a broader number of
Audience.
people. So also, you can support our program in a number of ways. You'll see that in the description as well. We don't ask you to do that. We certainly appreciate it if you do, but we understand that that's not something that everybody can do. This program is a friend of Dakin Humane Society in Springfield, Mass. And Dakin supports a monthly pet loss support group that I do, that I facilitate every month on the second Tuesday of the month. That's Penelope snorting. The second Tuesday of the month. And there's an RSVP link to that meeting in our program description. So if that would be helpful for you, please consider joining us. You can join from all over the world, and people in fact do. It brings a whole bunch of different perspectives. The meeting runs from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., again on the second Tuesday of every month. And finally, please consider subscribing and or leaving a comment, leaving a thumbs up, because that always helps to raise our profile in the algorithm on YouTube. And that makes it so that other people who would benefit from this program as a resource for support while they're going through their grieving, it makes it more likely that they're going to be directed to it. So please consider doing that. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much. And we really appreciate that. And then finally, we just want to let you know that we have an affiliate relationship with a business called Bereave. Bereave makes very finely crafted granite memorial plaques that, as you see in the image, if you're watching a video of the program, are the kind of thing that you would put at a gravesite or a memorial garden or somewhere inside where you keep mementos. And they can include, and you would provide a photograph, and they can include an image of your beloved animal companion, and then whatever text that you think might be something that you'd like on that. And if you purchase that plaque through the link in our description, we will get a little bit of financial support as well. So they kick back a little of the cost of the plaque to us. And Nancy, you want to get us started for today?
Yes. Now Penny is here, so hopefully she'll be quiet.
Why don't you show Penny for people who haven't
All right. Penny,
already
come here,
met her?
baby. Come here, baby. Here you go, my little girl. She's like,
She's
what's
very
going
cute.
on, Mom?
That is a big face. That's
She is
very
a big
cute.
face. She does. Okay. So we have a wonderful story. I mean, it's so heartwarming and so heartbreaking, as all of our stories are, from Roger and his Mollie. I had a Mollie too, Roger. So we're going to talk about, you know, his life with Mollie and what happened. And so I'm going to start, and then Ken will pick up. I discovered your podcast 2 weeks ago, and I can't tell you how much of a comfort it has been to me since then. You have kept me company on my dog walks, which have been especially hard over this past week. Besides what you both say, you both have very soothing voices. Thank you. I came across the podcast because I was searching for something that might help me make sense of the process that I was facing as my whole world changed on Sunday, the 23rd of February. I have been privileged to be the dog dad to Jake and Mollie for over 11 years. Jake, a very handsome Staffy Whippet cross, was my first. I rehomed him from Dogs Trust near Liverpool in April of 2012, just a couple of weeks before my 40th birthday. I'd left corporate life at the end of 2009 and had promised myself that when I felt my income had become regular and reliable, I'd get myself a dog. He was about 9 to 12 months at the time. 6 months later, Zach came into my life and jumped at the chance to share dog dad duties. By that time, though, Jake had bonded strongly to me, which left Zach feeling a bit left out at times. So this is where Mollie came in. Again, a rescue from a center more local to us in our hometown of Bury, north of Manchester. This time, she was about a small black Staffy who was 18 months old, full of spirit, a complete hooligan, but had a heart the size of a planet and so much conversation in her, just like a typical Staffy. She and Jake played well, but it was clear she was more dominant than he, so Pack had to adjust to the new hierarchy. Being such a compliant lad, he was fine with this. I always said that the difference between the two of them was that he would ask for permission and she would ask for forgiveness. Mollie needed a lot of work in the first few years as she had been badly neglected in the time before she came to the rescue center. Her toileting was off, boundaries were alien to her, and she was a bit of an escape artist too. We put the time in, though, and she responded well. She really wanted to please. It's just that mischief sometimes got the better of her. Like when on holiday, she slipped her harness and ran off into the kitchen of the cafe to cause mayhem when we were trying to have a cup of coffee. She had spirit, and that's what I loved her for. Unfortunately, after 5 years, Zach and I had to go our separate ways, but I decided to become sole dog dad to both Jake and Mollie as he couldn't take her with him. Running my own business, I had the flexibility to make this work. And while there were definitely times where I felt like taking her back, I'd spent a fortune on replacing carpets she toileted on one too many times, never a hard floor, always the carpet, we get you. I'd really grown to love her and wanted to keep the two of them together. That was back in 2017. At first, Mollie started to show some aggression towards Jake as she felt like she needed to compete for my affection, given there was only half as much available now with Zach not around. Fortunately, I have a great vet who referred us to a specialist behavior practice that guided me in doing the right work with her to make her feel secure again, and things settled down after a few months. From then on followed 7 years of it pretty much being the three of us. I used to call it our little team. They had my back and I had theirs. I've been single ever since, so looking after them by myself was definitely a challenge. I had to make a lot of compromises, but they absolutely got me through some very tough times and became my anchors in life. The reason that kept me here after 2 near fatal blood clots and numerous orthopedic surgeries. They were my number one motivation to get better. They needed me and I needed them. Each year, we would take a week's holiday at a cottage in the Lake District National Park, which is only a couple hours from where we lived. Every time it was a new adventure, new mountains to climb together, new treks to explore. My best memories of the three of us are from the time we spent there. In August 2024, Mollie had a sudden change in behavior, wanting to hide in small dark spaces. She got stuck in the back of the toilet and tried to hide in the dishwasher. And she would shiver constantly. The only thing that could calm her down would be to take her for a walk, on which she'd be fine. Even though the behaviors were quite dementia-like, Their sudden onset ruled that out. And so he told me the only other probable diagnosis was a slow growing brain tumor. He offered the option to refer her for an MRI, but made it clear that wouldn't change the option to refer, that wouldn't change the treatment options, as there was only one, which was a drug called Celgane. Given the limits on her insurance cover, I decided not to go for the MRI and just try the Celgane, which worked really well for her. It calmed her down so that she wasn't showing any of the distressed behaviors she had been, but her spark was not quite so bright either. Before this episode, she'd empty her toy box every night to get one of the tennis balls at the bottom of it. Not because she wanted to play with it, but just because she could, naturally. I both loved and cursed her for it. She never did this again. Her desire for play had all but gone. Other than that, she was eating well and loved her walks. She lived for those, and cuddles too. She was also in incredible shape for her age, 12 by now. Jake was falling behind her with his arthritis, and it got to the stage where I was doing a figure of 8 walk each morning. The two of them on a short circuit first, drop Jake back at the house, and then take Mollie on a longer one. She'd walk for hours. Looking back, I do remember our wonderful vet, Chris, saying that her episode last summer was likely the start of a slow decline, but naturally, I put that to the back of my mind and focused on giving them their best lives ever. Last November, we were back at the lakes for a week, but I never realized it was to be our last as our little team. It was perfect. The cutest little cottage with a lovely fire for them to sleep in front of. We got a couple of 3 to 4 hour walks on the flat inn, but it was more Jake I was having to gauge by then. Life was still good, though, and I was always finding ways to make it easier for them. Everything changed at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday, the 23rd of February, though. I was woken by a sound that I thought was Mollie retching to be sick, but she was having a seizure. I sat with her as she came out of it and through the I can't pronounce that, the after stage. She was terrified, very weary of me, and for the first time bared her teeth at me, but I know she didn't mean it. After an hour, she had settled in my arms as I lay on the floor with her. I spoke to the emergency vet, who advised me not to bring her in unless she had a second one. If she didn't, then just to go see my vet on Monday. She had settled night and seemed to be okay in the morning and the afternoon, eating and walking and toileting normally, still wanting lots of cuddles, just like the regular Moll. Unfortunately, at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday, she had another, similar in length to the first, a couple of minutes, but this time I took her to the emergency vet. They put her on Keppra and gave me diazepam to give her if she had another. Again, she seemed to recover okay, but now she had a little bit of weakness in her back legs. I got us in at our vet's the following day. He talked through the implications of what we were now looking at, that the Keppra could work for a long while, but we've no way of knowing how long, and the next seizure could really damage her. Given that she needed the diazepam to be given anally as soon as one started, that meant she could not now be left alone. My heart knew what was coming, but my head wasn't ready to accept it.
For the next 24 hours, I went through every single possibility to find a way of making this work. I build solutions for clients. It's what I do. So I can find a solution to this, is what I was telling myself. If you saw her without knowing what had happened, you'd think she was amazing for her age. She'd only turned 13 2 weeks earlier and was out on a 10-mile walk with me just a couple of days before. She was a little trooper, fearless, brave, always up for adventure, and everyone's friend. Things changed for me on the Tuesday, though, due to the words of a complete stranger. I'd posted in one of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Facebook groups, and one of the members reached out to me on a DM with her story. She told me how she'd been in exactly my position 12 months ago, and she decided to keep her boy on the Keppra and hope for the best. Unfortunately, his next seizure severely damaged him, and they had to let him go in a very sudden way. She still regretted her decision not to let him go when he was calm and in no pain. and in a way that was full of love rather than trauma. Reading this, I could hear me saying to myself, I'm her dad. I need to protect her from this happening. I can't let her down. That's when I knew what needed to happen. My vets have a wonderful lady who works on reception and who is also their in house bereavement counselor, Allison. Over the years, Allison has become a good friend, and she has a huge soft spot for my two. She knew what was coming and offered to come spend time with me on the Wednesday to help me work through my thoughts. She was amazing, but I'd made up my mind by then, even though I was on my third day of crying. She took on making the end of life arrangements for me, as I wanted it to happen at home, which is a service my vets don't normally offer. We agreed that we would aim for Monday, the 3rd of March. Thankfully, I'd been able to drop all of my work this week. Even though we have some really high profile projects on with some amazing clients, my team picked up the slack for me and left me able to focus on Mollie for the week. I guess it helped that I only recruited dog lovers. The following day, Allison called me to say all the arrangements had been made and she and Chris would be at mine for 9 a.m. on Monday. This broke me. Having a time brought home the finality of it. It was like there was a countdown clock over me and her now, and I didn't want to waste a minute or an hour we had left together, whether that be daytime or nighttime. On Friday, we went to the beach. It was beautiful weather, lots of running around and playing. Even Jake, at 14, was getting involved. Excuse me. Pup cups and cheeseburgers on the way home, too. On Saturday, Zach and I took them both to the lakes so she could have one last trip there, and it was a day filled with so much love. She got to ride up front, and she literally hugged him with a paw on each shoulder all the way there and back. It reminded me of the really strong bond they still had. Zach and I had tried to make it work again a couple of times, and we'd parted on the best of terms. But going back up there with them meant we could share stories. Some I'd forgotten, some he had. And it reminded me there was plenty of good times. So unexpectedly, I've felt some healing from that, and the sense of peace is welcome. It wouldn't have been right to have this special day with anyone else but him. I just want to put, I believe this is Zach here. Sunday, some of my close friends came to say goodbye to her. She was so loved by so many, particularly for her cheeky, mischievous spirit and for being a solid lump of love. Much as I tried to do everything I could to keep Monday from coming, the staying awake at night, the not losing a minute with her, it came. We had our last walk, and she had sausages for breakfast. They had been on steak for tea since about Wednesday. At 9, when everyone arrived, she was loving it. All these people in her home to make a fuss of her. Zach was here, as was another friend who was going to be taking me and her to the crematorium after. It was peaceful for her. She fell asleep in my arms, which was just how I wanted it. I've never felt pain like this, though. Since she left, I've come to realize she was my soul dog. Yes, Jake is my first and my very special lad, but Mollie was on another level for me. I think it was the physical connection staffies need with their humans. She was the best cuddler in the world, and I miss that so much. Jake is a lot more reserved. He likes to be in my company, where she liked to be on me. It's been a week now. This morning was hard. I tried not to think about this last week, but those thoughts did creep in. My close friends have been, on the whole, amazing. I knew last week was going to be incredibly tough, but I had the courage to face it with my friends, if my friends had my back. Unfortunately, two didn't, and that's added to the pain I felt. Trying to project their judgment onto me for not having Mollie put to sleep at the beginning of the week has been incredibly hurtful and unbelievable, as they are dog owners too. I'm not making any rash decisions given where I am at, but I am taking space from them both, as I don't need that energy. It's possible I might need to cut them loose. We'll see. So now I'm focusing on Jake. Because of the money I'm saving on not paying out for Mollie's insurance and meds, I'm now able to increase his hydrotherapy to weekly, and he's also getting to be starting with a canine physiotherapist. He was present when Mollie left us, as I know that's important for the second dog in helping them to process what has happened. I think he's adjusting to being the only dog again, but he's not eating much, and he's lived his life through his tummy for all of these years. So I'm going to see the vet about this tomorrow. Excuse me again. I'm feeling fortunate in that I don't feel any guilt. Not at the moment, anyway. I know it was the right thing to do. I had to protect her, and I'm feeling incredibly lucky for having the chance to spend those last few days with her and make them her best, as many don't get that opportunity. It's these thoughts which are getting me through. Yes, I cry most days, but I know that will not always be the case. She is home with us now, and she might be out of sight, but she's in my heart and will be in my thoughts right up to my very last. I will get another dog, just not yet. It's not fair to put Jake through that adjustment at his age now. He's earned his peace for the rest of his days, and I'll make sure that he has that, although he is already meeting some other dogs to have as new friends. Mollie was too much of a prima donna to allow other dogs into our team. Getting another dog won't be about replacing either of them. It will be about there being space in my life and my heart to help another dog that needs it. Thank you both for all you do. I feel honored to be able to share my story with you both. Much love, Roger. And so we also just want to share, Roger sent us a second note. He said, Dear Nancy and Ken, there was one last thing that which came to me this morning on my walk with Jake that was worth sharing, as it's something I'm doing to help me with my grief. I've arranged a memorial walk to celebrate Mollie on Sunday, June 13th. I can see a tower on the hills on the other side of Bury from my bedroom window. Ever since I moved into this house, I kept promising the dogs that we'd walk up to it one day from home. We've been to it many times, but by parking much closer, which is then just a 20-minute walk up the hill. From my home, it's about 6 miles. I started to feel a strong regret about this after Mollie passed, as she would have loved it, but I've decided to flip the regret into a celebration for her. She was so loved by so many people that at least 15 people are joining me for it, from which I feel so much love and support. At the tower, we will each be sharing a story or a memory about her, which I'm going to capture for a memory book. Even those who couldn't make it have sent me their memories, and reading them puts a tear in my eye and a smile on my face. Unfortunately, the 2 friends I mentioned before have flatly refused to have anything to do with it. I've been so pained by their reactions and judgments that I'm not sure I'll be able to move past it and remain friends. Again, thank you for reading, and I'd be privileged if you decided to share my story. Much love, Roger. And we're so privileged to
We're
share
so,
his
yes.
story. It's
And we have
so
a comment
heartfelt.
for Celeste that says, this is to pinpoint this. What a great story about Mollie and Roger is so brave with his thoughts,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, Roger, what a beautiful story, right? And I love the solid lump of love,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah,
she was larger than life. She had
yeah.
such a personality. Of course,
She
she
did.
became your soul dog,
And
you know?
I have to say, when I read this story and I shared this with Roger, it brought a tear to my eye periodically because he was so it was so loving, and the details somehow really were evocative for me. And it's just so powerful, and the ritual that he's put together
Yeah,
is just such
beautiful.
great. It's so great.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, and the guilt thing. Celeste just got back to us again too and said she's full of guilt. And that is not untypical. We've talked a lot about this.
Yes. Yeah.
In most cases, there are people who they either think they in a euthanasia decision did it too soon, or they waited too long, and or there was something that happened that they feel that they could have changed
Yeah.
around their pet's death.
It's
Um,
very we did our pet loss group, our Zoom group a couple days ago, and we talked a bit about guilt, and I asked, as I frequently do, everybody who has felt guilt to raise their hand, and almost everybody in the meeting, and there were about 23 people, and 2 of us who were facilitating, or the Dakin monitor and me,
yeah.
and
But I will say
it's very
this:
common. It's just very
it's
common. Not
common.
everybody by any means,
But
and
what happened with
Roger.
Roger happened with me,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
For whatever reason, Peter and I, over the years that we've had all of our beautiful animals, I don't think I've ever felt guilt about euthanasia.
Mhm.
And the reason for me is, and of course it's very different for everyone, and I think Roger, you could probably, talk to this, is that we knew and we said or decided in the beginning or towards the episodes of illnesses, that were going to be terminal at some point, when these things happened, and we would talk to our veterinarians, right? These things happened, that is their time.
Yeah.
And luckily, for us, we had clarity, and no matter how hard it is, but I was, I guess, lucky not to have those guilt feelings. And I've gone through it 9 times.
Yeah.
So knowing my animal, my companion, and what was going on, and I think, Roger, that's part of what you're saying. I think that this was the right time for Mollie, right? So
I always feel guilt. I just do. I
okay,
always feel guilt.
but
I feel like I didn't do enough to make their lives special. That's always what I feel when I lose them. And I've lost many, many dogs and cats, and I do try to make their lives very
and
full.
birds.
And birds and rats and well, the horse didn't die.
Horse, you have no, I don't think
But
Henry's died yet.
but I always feel like I shoulda, coulda, woulda done more to make their life more full. And there have been, the story of my dog who died while we were in Barcelona,
Yeah.
and had been reassured by the vet that he was stable enough, and he was quite elderly. He was 60. He was like 16, and he had congestive heart failure, as it seems like most Chihuahuas, our Chihuahuas always seem to get as they get into their very late age. But he was supposed to be stable, and
you never know.
Passed while we were away. But it's temperamental. It's all, it has so much to do with also just our emotional nature.
Yes.
And so it's great if you don't feel guilt, and it's very typical for many of us to feel guilt.
Of course.
Yep.
And it's how we grieve,
Yep.
and
It's
what comes up for us. And I think, Roger, you gave Mollie her best life.
Oh yeah.
And you're giving Jake your best life.
Yep. And I got to tell you, and the ritual is so powerful. And I mean, there's so many elements of it. There's that the friends will be part of it, that people will share stories, that he will have a collection of those stories. All of those things are so powerful and so healing. And it's just wonderful.
We got some more. Roger's also talking. Celeste
commenting. Yes, that's it, Nancy. I was her dad, so it was my responsibility to protect her from the trauma that was likely to come from her next seizure. Absolutely. And it was a very wise decision, for sure.
And Celeste has another one, I think. A couple of them.
Celeste says she was at our meeting, so she said that was very healing. It was great to have you there, Celeste, and also you, Roger. And
Ralphie's
Celeste
birthday.
Is saying, Ralphie's birthday is coming, is Sunday. Also, Celeste says she's full of guilt. I mean, it's just unavoidable in many cases.
Look, yes. I mean, guilt is one of the hardest emotions.
You let it come, you let it go, you argue with yourself. You try not to get all tied up in it.
Yeah.
You're just like, that's my philosophy is, okay, I feel guilt. Let's acknowledge it, but let's not cling to it, because we don't want to.
No, it's hard though for a lot of people to really move through that. Obviously.
I mean, ultimately, what I do is I actually reference. I've said this probably a lot of times. I reference their boxes with their ashes. I take a look at them and I say, there is no point in obsessing at this point. They lived a great life with you. They have transitioned. They are no longer here. What you have left of them, there's no way to make a change in how their life was. So just try to accept whatever feelings you have and embrace the fact
and they're real,
that you love them, that they're with you.
That's right.
You hold
they're
them
with
now
us
in your own memory, in your heart, in your soul, and you keep going.
And they will never not be with you in your spirit. And that's, I think, also Roger said,
Yep.
because they become part of who we are.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really appreciate the way Roger says he's going to time getting another. He knows he'll
Mm-hmm.
get another dog, but he's going to be very respectful of Jake's elderly status,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to stay with Jake and let Jake be alone in the family, although Jake has friends, dogs
Yes, he
who are
has new
friends.
friends.
And then he knows that at some point he'll be ready to welcome another
Mm-hmm.
canine family member, and that's so wise.
Yeah,
And so we
absolutely.
thank you so much for
Thank you,
sharing with us,
Roger.
Roger. And for those who are with us, we appreciate you being
Yes,
with us.
thank you. And
Celeste,
thank you,
thanks for your
Celeste.
comments.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk with you again. Actually, next week we have a guest
Mm-hmm.
who is a veterinarian who specializes in creative approaches to euthanasia and the aftermath. So that'll be an interesting conversation for
Certainly
sure.
will.
So, Nancy, always great talking with you as well. And we'll get
We'll
together
we'll
again next
talk
week.
next week.
Take care,
Take,
everybody.
take care.